Hey everyone, welcome to Mind, Body and Wallet. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of longevity with Dr. Peter Attia's book, Outlive. This book isn't your average health guide. It's a total game changer that challenges everything we think we know about health and aging. Dr. Attia kicks things off with a personal story about a recurring dream he had as a young surgeon. In this dream, he's frantically trying to catch falling eggs, but no matter how hard he tries, he can't save them all. This dream is a metaphor for the frustrating battle against diseases like cancer. It made Dr. Attia question the traditional medical approach of just treating symptoms instead of getting to the root of the problem. This led him on a quest to understand longevity, which he defines as not just living longer, but living better. He introduces the concept of slow death, which is the way most of us are likely to die today. It's not a sudden event, but a gradual decline caused by chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. These diseases are like silent killers, slowly chipping away at our health over time. Dr. Attia believes that mainstream medicine has failed to address these slow deaths effectively. We're great at treating emergencies and acute illnesses, but we're not so good at preventing the chronic diseases that are actually killing most of us. He proposes a new approach to medicine, called Medicine 3.0, which focuses on prevention, personalized treatment, and empowering patients to take control of their health. But what exactly is longevity? Dr. Attia explains that it's not about living forever, but about maximizing both our lifespan, how long we live, and our health span, how well we live. He wants us to have more bonus decades, which are those extra years of life where we're still healthy, active, and enjoying life to the fullest. Dr. Attia's own journey to understanding longevity began when he realized that despite being a doctor and seemingly living a healthy lifestyle, he was overweight and had poor metabolic health. This was a wake-up call for him and led him to question conventional medical wisdom and dive deep into longevity research. Chapter 1. The Long Game. In this chapter, Dr. Attia takes us back to his time as a surgical resident, where he witnessed the limitations of traditional medicine in treating advanced diseases. He talks about the difference between fast death, caused by acute events like accidents, and slow death, caused by chronic diseases. Modern medicine is great at dealing with fast death, but slow death is a whole different ballgame. He introduces the 4 horsemen of slow death: heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, and type 2 diabetes. These are the major players we need to tackle if we want to live long and healthy lives. But the problem is, traditional medicine usually only steps in after you're already sick. It's like trying to fix a broken egg instead of preventing it from breaking in the first place. Dr. Attia uses the analogy of catching falling eggs, treating symptoms, versus stopping the person throwing them, preventing disease, to illustrate the need for a shift in focus towards prevention. He criticizes the current medical approach of waiting for a diagnosis before intervening, using type 2 diabetes as an example, where intervention often starts too late. He also shares his personal journey of realizing his own vulnerability to chronic diseases despite a seemingly healthy lifestyle. This realization was a turning point for him and led him to question conventional medical wisdom and dive deep into longevity research. So, what's the takeaway? It's time to stop playing defense and start playing offense when it comes to our health. We need to focus on preventing chronic diseases before they start, not just treating them after the fact. And that's what Dr. Attia's book is all about. He's going to give us the tools and knowledge we need to take control of our health and live longer, healthier lives. Chapter 2. Medicine 3.0. Get ready for a wild ride, because in this chapter, Dr. Attia shares a story about how he got in trouble during his medical residency for doing what he thought was best for a patient. This experience opened his eyes to how resistant the medical field can be to change, even when it comes to life or death situations. He then takes a detour into the world of finance, where he learned a lot about risk assessment. This got him thinking, why don't we assess health risks the same way we assess financial risks? He realized that medicine often focuses on avoiding harm at all costs, which can sometimes lead to inaction and missed opportunities for better treatments. Dr. Attia then introduces the concept of Medicine 3.0, a new approach that focuses on prevention, personalized treatment, and a smarter understanding of risk. He contrasts this with Medicine 1.0, observation-based, and Medicine 2.0, germ theory and scientific method, which have been great at tackling infectious diseases, but not so great at dealing with chronic diseases. Medicine 3.0 is all about empowering patients to take control of their health. It's about using technology like continuous glucose monitoring to personalize treatment plans and make informed decisions. It's about shifting our mindset from just trying to live longer to actually living better. Dr. Attia uses the analogy of the Titanic to illustrate his point. If the Titanic had better technology, like radar or GPS, it could have avoided the iceberg altogether. Similarly, in medicine, we need better tools and a longer-term perspective to navigate the icebergs of chronic diseases. Chapter 3: Objective, Strategy, Tactics. In this chapter, Dr. Attia lays out his framework for achieving longevity. It's like a game plan with 3 key elements. Objective: what are your health goals? What do you want your life to look like in the future? Strategy: this is your overall plan to reach your objective based on the science of aging and disease prevention. Tactics: these are the specific actions you take to implement your strategy, like exercise, diet, and supplements. He emphasizes that it's not just about living longer, but living healthier. He wants us to have more bonus decades, which are those extra years of life where we're still feeling good and enjoying ourselves. But how do we figure out the right strategy and tactics? Dr. Attia talks about 5 sources of information that can help us. Studies of centenarians. What can we learn from people who've lived to 100 and beyond? Animal models. What do studies on animals tell us about aging and longevity? Research on the 4 horsemen. How do these diseases develop, and what are their risk factors? Molecular mechanisms of aging. What's happening at the cellular level as we age? Mendelian randomization studies. How can we use genetics to understand the relationship between lifestyle factors and disease risk? By combining these different sources of information, we can develop a personalized plan for longevity. It's not about following a one-size-fits-all approach, but about figuring out what works best for you as an individual. Chapter 4: Centenarians, who doesn't want to live to 100. In this chapter, Dr. Attia takes a closer look at centenarians, those lucky folks who've made it to the triple digits. And guess what? They're not all health nuts. Some of them smoke, some drink, and they don't all follow a strict diet. So what's their secret? It's a combination of genetics and lifestyle. Genes definitely play a role, but they're not the whole story. Centenarians tend to have something called compression of morbidity, meaning they live a long time in good health and only get sick in the last few years of their lives. That's what we all want, right? But here's the thing, most of us don't have the same genes as centenarians. So can we still achieve a long and healthy life? Absolutely. Dr. Attia believes that by studying centenarians and understanding the factors that contribute to their longevity, we can develop strategies to mimic their success. He talks about the challenges of identifying specific longevity genes, because aging is a complex process. But he also highlights some promising genes, like ApoE2, which is associated with a lower risk of Alzheimer's disease and longer lifespan. The key takeaway is that while genetics are important, they're not the only factor. We can take control of our health by adopting healthy lifestyle habits and making informed choices based on the latest research. Chapter 5: Eat Less, Live Longer. In this chapter, Dr. Attia takes us on a trip to Easter Island, the birthplace of a drug called rapamycin. This drug has been shown to extend lifespan in animals, and scientists are excited about its potential for humans. Rapamycin works by targeting a pathway in our cells called mTOR, which is like a control center for growth and aging. When mTOR is activated, we grow, but we also age faster. When it's suppressed, we age slower but don't grow as much. Rapamycin seems to suppress mTOR, which is why it's so interesting for longevity research. Dr. Attia also talks about caloric restriction, which is the idea that eating less can make you live longer. Studies have shown that this works in animals, but it's not clear if it works the same way in humans. The research on rapamycin and caloric restriction is still ongoing, but it's clear that what we eat and how much we eat plays a huge role in our health and longevity. Chapter 6: The Crisis of Abundance. Sugar is the enemy. Well, maybe not all sugar, but definitely too much of it. In this chapter, Dr. Attia talks about the crisis of abundance we're facing today. We have access to more food than ever before, but it's not always the healthiest food. He focuses on fructose, a type of sugar that's found in many processed foods and sugary drinks. Our bodies aren't designed to handle the amount of fructose we're consuming, and it can lead to all sorts of problems, like fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome. Even if you're thin, you can still have these issues if you're eating too much fructose. It's not just about weight, it's about how your body processes sugar. Dr. Attia also talks about uric acid, a byproduct of fructose metabolism that can contribute to high blood pressure and other health problems. He explains how our ancient genes, which were once helpful for survival, are now working against us in our modern environment. Chapter 7. The Ticker. This chapter is all about heart health. Dr. Attia shares his own family history of heart disease and how it motivated him to learn more about preventing it. He also talks about a friend who discovered he was at high risk for heart disease, even though he seemed perfectly healthy. This chapter is a deep dive into cholesterol, lipoproteins, and how they all contribute to heart disease. It's not as simple as good and bad cholesterol. There are different types of particles that carry cholesterol in our blood, and some are more dangerous than others. One of those particles is called ApoB, and it's a major player in heart disease. Dr. Attia argues that we should be focusing on ApoB levels, not just LDL cholesterol, to assess our risk. He also talks about LPA, a lesser-known type of cholesterol that's even more dangerous than LDL. It's often overlooked, but it can significantly increase your risk of heart disease. Dr. Attia explains how heart disease develops over time, starting with damage to the lining of our arteries. This damage can lead to plaque buildup, which can eventually cause a heart attack or stroke. But here's the good news: we can prevent heart disease. By making lifestyle changes like eating a healthy diet, exercising regularly, and managing stress, we can lower our risk significantly. And if necessary, there are medications that can help too. Chapter 8. The Runaway Cell. All right, folks, buckle up because this chapter is a roller coaster. We're tackling cancer, the second leading cause of death in the US. Dr. Attia kicks it off with a story about a patient who mysteriously recovered from terminal stomach cancer, which sparked a doctor's lifelong quest to harness the immune system to fight cancer. It's a story of hope and perseverance, and it sets the stage for this chapter. Now let's face the facts. Cancer is a tough opponent. Despite billions of dollars in research, we haven't made as much progress as we'd like. Dr. Attia shows us a graph that reveals the harsh reality. Cancer death rates have barely changed in the last 50 years. It's a sobering reminder that we need to rethink our approach to this disease. But don't lose hope just yet. Dr. Attia breaks down the complexities of cancer, explaining that it's not just one disease, but a whole bunch of different diseases with unique genetic mutations. This is why finding a single cure is so challenging. One of the biggest problems with cancer is that it can spread to other parts of the body, a process called metastasis. This is what makes cancer so deadly. But why does cancer spread, and how can we stop it? These are the questions that researchers are trying to answer. Dr. Attia then dives into two promising approaches to cancer treatment. Targeting cancer metabolism. Did you know that cancer cells are basically sugar addicts? They gobble up glucose like it's going out of style. Scientists are exploring ways to exploit this weakness and starve cancer cells of their fuel. Immunotherapy. This is a super exciting field. It's all about harnessing the power of our own immune system to fight cancer. There have been some incredible breakthroughs in immunotherapy, and it's giving new hope to cancer patients. Dr. Attia shares a heartwarming story about a friend who was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer, but was saved by immunotherapy. It's a powerful reminder that we're making progress in the fight against cancer. But we can't just rely on new treatments. Early detection is key. The earlier we catch cancer, the easier it is to treat. Dr. Attia talks about new technologies like liquid biopsies, which can detect cancer through a simple blood test. This could revolutionize cancer screening and save countless lives. So what's the bottom line? Cancer is a complex and challenging disease, but we're not giving up. By focusing on prevention, developing smarter treatments, and improving early detection, we can turn the tide against cancer and give hope to millions of people. That's all for the Part 1 for Outlive by Peter Attia. Stay tuned for the Part 2 and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.